Let's continue our program for the day with a slot for 3 speakers, the triplets. Back in my day, which is a long time ago, when I worked at an ISP whose name was already mentioned earlier, the internet was still an experiment. So if you broke something, for instance, I broke the mail server, people started calling the support desk, and the support desk said, sorry, yes, we know our mail server is down. And the response would be, I will try again tomorrow. These days, that is different. So what do you do if you want to become a BGP expert, like Teun? I don't know. Maybe he just plays one on TV, I don't know. But you don't have an employer where the internet is still an experiment. And I don't think the internet is still an experiment. Maybe not. You have to do something to learn, and you only learn by making mistakes. So the guys here are going to talk to us about their personal ASNs, why they have them, what they learn from them, and what they do with them. It's Nick, Jelle, and Peter Paul. And they are going to take turns on the microphone, which they are going to arrange for themselves. There is going to be a video, so the laptop will work, I'm sure. And well, guys, your turn now. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Niels. The talk of this presentation is, why would anyone possibly want to run a personal ASN? There we go. Because you can is a very good answer. But we're going to take a little peek behind the curtain and first talk about, well, personal ASNs in general, and then take a look at what people are doing with their networks. So first, who am I? The boring stuff. I'm Nick Bouwhuis. I work at SpeakUp. It's just a B2B communications provider. I do their phone ops, net ops, sys ops, all the stuff. So we have a small team. And then by night I have a small business with which I help small other entrepreneurs in the region of Twente with their hosting or other IT needs. And I think 2 years ago now I got a nice title from Cogent, which I take by heart. It is the Internet God and Network Supreme Ruler. This was the first email I got from them, and well. Yes, but I like this title, so if you approach me, please approach me by this title. So, I am a NOG engineer at SpeakUp. That means I manage a network there, which was already there when I started working there. And well, it is production, right? There's lots of VoIP traffic, lots of critical traffic going through there. So, even though I manage an ASN for my day job, I also have a personal ASN. But what is a personal ASN, you might ask? Well, I think BGP.tools defines it pretty nicely, which is that this ASN is run by a single person or a very small group of people for hobby, educational, or an infrastructure needs, basically for experimenting. And there are dozens of us. I have some numbers for you, literally dozens. So, again, I use BGP tools for this, because they have a pretty nice list. There are 1,354 listed there, and 61 of those are in the Netherlands, and only 25 of them are IPv6 only, so lots of people have IPv4 space to announce. But why would you want to do this, right? It's costly, it costs a lot of money, it's very time-consuming, and it's work. Nobody likes. Well, maybe some people like work, but outside of working hours, I'd like to relax in my own way. So the whys are that you have total control and freedom over your network. So when I started my job at SpeakUp, things were done a certain way. We use certain platforms, but maybe I want to experiment with different platforms or try out some new provisioning or automation systems. My own network gives me the freedom to actually actually experiment and do stuff with that. It also allows you to get some real-world experiences. So you get to also communicate with your peers, with transit providers. You maybe need to make some nice deals. You have to set up monitoring so you don't go over your commitments with your transits and get a nice bill. And if you are aspiring a career in networking and you tell the recruiter or whoever you're talking to at the company you're applying to that you have a personal ASN, then, well, at least in my book, you have a head start. So next up, I would like to address some criticisms. Some of you maybe have seen this article on the Ripes Lab blog. And these criticisms are the following. Hobby nets are irresponsible and mistakes affect everyone. Irresponsible is not the word I would use. It depends on the person running the network, I guess. And yes, mistakes can affect everyone, but it's also a very, very good way to learn. And there are yes, and there are ways for your peers to make sure that mistakes by a hobby net or another company doesn't affect the network very much, like setting up good filtering or implementing RPKI. And also, big companies also make mistakes. So it's not just the hobby nets that are responsible for your downtime. Then there's the argument of using alternatives like GNS3 or DN42. And these are very nice, but like Niels already said in the intro, you learn by making good mistakes. There are good mistakes, yes. While these are nice, at some point you want to move on and you get new experiences from running a personal ASN. And the last argument, they pollute the RIPE database. Well, I'm sorry. If you check the WHOIS record for my ASN, then there might be some ASCII art in there. But this is talking about not putting address data in there or misusing it. Again, just tell those networks that they are misbehaving, and we will fix it. Most of us are responsible human beings. So let's talk about my personal network. It's mostly a content network. I called it bgp.rodeo because I wanted a bgp.something domain, and then I scrolled through the TLD list and I found .rodeo, and that's pretty nice. You might have also seen this name on the leaderboard, dashboard.eventinfra.org, the top 20 ASNs. I'm on place 2 because traffic is tunneled through the SURF network, so SURF will always be number 1. But yeah. I'm number 2, yay. So my network is currently, this is 2 switches and a Dell R630, which has multiple duties. It's a hypervisor. It runs a web server, for example. It runs BER2. And these switches are connected to a couple of places like SpeedIX, FreeSix, FuseX, AMSAX, InterDC, and Net1, which is right over there. I want to, everyone here deserves a shout out because they connected me for free or for very little money. And I want to give an extra shout out to the AMCX Bright Networks Club. They saw that there is a large community of private networks here. And they reached out and said that they were starting a Bright Networks Club and offered a free 1 gig interconnection to AMCX. So that was really nice of them, and I hope others will follow. And then recently I got a second location in Enschede, which is much closer to my home. To give you a picture, it's Nikhaf, where this infrastructure is about 1 hour and 45 minutes from my house, and this is only 15 minutes or 10 minutes. There I only have 2 nice Dell servers. This is a generation newer, the R640, and there I am connected to the NSIX which is an old initiative that has recently resurfaced. So if you go to InterDC and track your router there, then we would appreciate that you join NCX as well. Here I run Proxmox with Ceph and run a couple of VMs. Almost too much, actually. So what software do I use? I already said I use Bird. I automated it using Case, which is a automation framework thingy, collection of scripts for deploying Bird config on, deploying Bird configs. I mainly use it to do peering configuration. I'm using Bookworm or Trixie. I like Debian. It's also what I use at work. I'm used to it. It's stable. I like Debian. And then I use Netbox for EPAM and libvirt or Proxmox, depending on what location you're looking for. So what is hosted on my network? Well, I host a speedtest.net server, which does a little bit of traffic. I also host some open source mirrors, like for MariaDB or for Arch or Manjaro. And there's also my personal website, of course, and I'm forgetting stuff. But this is real traffic that's, well, doesn't affect a lot of people if it breaks, because, well, for example, the Arch mirror, there are lots of mirrors. But it's enough for me to see changes when I change the configuration. So it's nice to have some traffic to quote-unquote play with. And it also helps the community, so that's also nice. But that was it for my network. I'd like to hand it to Jelle, who's going to talk about Luja.net.
Yeah, I have the personal enterprise network. But first, who am I? I'm Jelle Luteijn. I'm a software developer specialized in infrastructure automation and also self-service. For my own I started my own network with the goal of running my own services autonomously. I just like to host the stuff myself, and that people can access that. So to start with the name, the Personal Enterprise Network, what makes is it an enterprise? I think so, because I run enterprise applications. I have an Exchange server running. I have remote desktop services. I don't have SharePoint, neither do I want. I do have Nextcloud though. And I have my own Git server for Joe running in my network. So these are all services for myself. Architecture highlights. I have 2 servers, 2 routers in Amsterdam, in NICAF, and for now in EU networks. It's run on the latest version of Bird 2. And my configuration is my own homegrown automation platform, but it is based on Case, which is the automation system by Colocluso. Thank you. I do RPKI. I also do ESPA and BGP communities. I dropped IAR filtering because it's not authoritative. Mostly American networks use alternative routing databases, and with RPKI it's all centralized, authoritative. So I trust that more than the IAR database. I also have my own peering portal, so people can go to my website, log in with their PeeringDB account, and request peering if we have inter-exchanges in common. The compute of my network is at home. I have 2 WireGuard VPNs to both data centers, and it works for me, which is most important stuff. The hypervisors are run on Proxmox V, and I think that's more common with personal networks. You just saw the network graph of Nick's network. Mine is slightly less. It's a little bit small, but on the physics port, it's on average 5 megabits per second. And once per day, around 3 AM, it spikes to 100 megabit, which is a backup. And the other is the graph of Coloclue, which is also around the 5 megabits per second. So yeah, it's an enterprise, but it's a personal one. I want to thank the M6 for the Bright Networks Club. They hooked me on the M6. Also Freesix. I have also co-location with Freesix/Aerotop. IPNG Networks. Net1 NL, which is one of my upstreams. And Network Association Coloclue. So, and now it's for Net1 NL.
Okay, thanks, Jelle. Yeah, so adjusting the mic a little bit. So good morning. My name is Peter Paul. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my network, what I'm doing actually. And we called it actually a nickname because we practiced a presentation with 3 of us together. And we said, okay, what could we call it? So personal networks, and of course there's some ambiguity on what is personal, what is professional. We had a chat with Niels, I think, a few minutes ago. But we nicknamed it, so personal content networks, personal enterprise network. So I thought, okay, let's call it my network a personal carrier network, because that's the role I'm fulfilling. And there was something on the bingo, I think. Let's say that my network is a tier 3 carrier grade network. So somebody can now press it in the app. So no, I'm not having it say a tier 3 carrier grade network, but I do fulfill a tier role or a carrier role, you would call it. By the way, I'm not a network engineer. I don't have any background in that. So I'm really a really funky person in this room. So I work at Red Hat, implementing all kinds of platforms, open source implementations, culture, processes, etc. But I love to have new challenges, do new things. So that's the reason that I thought, okay, let's dive into this world. So a long time in a galaxy far, far away, and I'm not sure who is a Trekkie or a Star Wars fan here. Don't raise hands, don't raise hands. It's like, I'm now 41, and then about, I think, 20 years ago, so Sebastian was already mentioned in the first slide by Teun. He's a long-term friend of mine. We were doing some beers. I was like 22. And we were like, yeah, what would be a cool project? Oh, yes, let's request PI space from RIPE. You can imagine 20 years ago. Now IPv4 is exhausted. And then we thought, well, that will never, ever going to happen, because me as a natural person requesting a PI space from RIPE, that will not happen. And I'm not sure who of you requested PI space or IP prefixes, I think 20 years ago, but we still had to do it with a... you did, Niels? Okay. You had to do it with a TXT file at the time. Can anyone remember that? So you had to fill in a TXT file with all your information. So we thought, well, you only live once, we just enter that information, and we will see what happened. Me not, let's say, having any clue that it would really happen. So, a few days later, boom, it still got assigned. So it was like, oh shit, and I got an IPv4 prefix, at least it was assigned. And then, to be honest, for the people that notice me, so I'm really proud it's PI Legacy, by the way, so really fun. You can see it's created, 2006, and I'm not hoping that now there are really official RIPE employees here in the room. When you check really well on the route in the origin created, you can see that it was not, let's say, being originated by an ASN until 2 years ago. So I was in the position of a PI prefix for, let's say, 17, 18 years without doing any shit with it. So At a certain moment, I mentioned Sebastian already, we were chatting and we made, let's say, literally plans for 10 years. Okay, Peter Paul, you're going to build your own network and do some cool stuff with it, etc. I said, yeah. But the whole problem is that, of course, that it was quite expensive to 20 years to do that. If you want to have a peering transit, now you have, of course, AMS-X and FreeZX and LAX and all those cool exchanges which you can connect, but at the time, for a student, it's impossible to pay. So 2 or 3 years ago, I was discussing with Sebastian, and we said, okay, let's get a move on, and now let's start building. So I set for myself a little bit of a goal. I talked on this on your podcast as well, Niels, is like becoming from an open source company. So I okay, when I have this stuff, I got it for free, the PI space, now you need to pay for it. I thought, okay, let's make good use of the IP space and use it for other folks as well. So I'm not into enterprise networks or into content, so I figured out, oh well, why not fulfill some sort of a carrier role? And that's what I actually started with. So my goal, providing a super fast community network almost for free. So I will be honest, having a network, and I think the gents behind me know this as well. You cannot do that for free completely. It's impossible. I did it for free the first year, I think. Yeah? So for everyone, but the connections now grew a little bit. You will see the platform a little bit. But I want to build this platform almost for free for everyone. So if there are hobby projects or initiatives, Luc, you cannot come with. I'm not sure where Luc is. He was like on a massive package, etc. Oh, there, Luc. Yeah. So not that kind of traffic yet, but I will have a sneak preview later on that part. So perhaps and to offer that for other people. So it's also a shout out to if anyone has a hobby project, you can connect with me in 2 data centers. So due to time, a little bit, okay, how is then my architecture being set up? A little bit different, you could call it, but similarities with the folks behind me. Also using Dell servers. Really cool, I know the Dell folks here in Amsterdam, a few kilometers away. Discussed a lot with them, okay, how to do the hardware setup specifically. Using Arista switches in NICAF, I'm currently at 2 locations. So NICAF, of course, where there are a lot of IXPs at this moment. And in Cupra, so where's Arend? Somewhere Arend is sitting there. Arend provided me a wave to Cupra, so you can also plug in there. Really cool. And then, of course, running Proxmox as well with, how can you say it, of course, RHEL VMs as routers. I drink my own champagne very proudly. And then, of course, vector packet processing. And the reason behind why I use VPP, Nick already knows this. I will tell you in a few minutes. And by the way, don't tell anyone, and I know some of my Red Hat colleagues will be dialing into the YouTube stream. It's now running Proxmox, but before I had VMware. So it's now recently changed to a full open source stack in this case. Lastly, case, of course, I saw Tijn sitting somewhere here as well. I think how many hours we spent in an evening to really fix case, because I have a 32-bit ASN. And then we spent a lot of time stripping out the classical BGP community prefixes and functions, etc., and to make it into large communities, of course. So something I didn't really know any stuff about. Okay, how much capacity? Almost 160 gigabits of external capacity. So that's not, let's say, 1 or 2 ports. It's a little bit more, and I'm still expanding. And then specifically mentioning also resource isolation. So we'll go into that about VPP in a few minutes, why I need to do that. You can find me in BGP tools and PeeringDB, of course. Some highlights. My goal, based also a little bit on my previous work before my current employer, is like I want to build it as enterprise as possible within the constraints in the time that I have. So for me, it's like, okay, full-on monitoring, Libre NMS. Everything is with desired state configs in the netbox, IPAM circuits, until the DIM modules of the servers, till the fans, everything is there. Of course, using Ansible to do all the configurations as much as possible. Still working on the full desired state config with webhooks from netbox to Ansible to the devices. Some of them work, and there's a talk later today on Terraform and some other network automation, so looking forward to their IDs. All code in GitLab, everything, so the whole case, the whole playbooks, everything is there. All the documentation is there as well. And then, of course, the whole enchilada of monitoring tools. So we got a Signal group with the 15 of us, 15 people behind me now as cone. Regular updates, Matrix does all the monitoring, of course, with all the stats. RIPE, Atlas, of course, and some other hobby projects. Uptime robot monitoring everything worldwide. 3-4 different smoke bank locations across the world to measure performance if everything is going well. And of course, famously NLNOG and some mirror services as well. And last but not least, so if you have, let's say, a personal carrier network, you need to also do some testing. So since about a year, I also got a test ASN, so where I have a copy of the whole network almost, with the same technology, the same packages, the same approach, and a copy of case and the tooling to also do testing. Because normally you could say, I just shut down my network and it will be fine, but in my case it evolved a little bit because there are like 15 people now using it. So you want to keep the network as much up as possible and do the testing up front. To conclude, a little bit of a picture. So this is my setup in NICAF. Arista switches. It's 31 ports now connected. Special mention to that small cable on the right. So people who know the switches, it's a 7280 64. This is a 40G link. This is from Asimo. Thank you very much. Transit 40G, really cool. So still not full. So if there are more projects, Daniel promised me a 100 gig port. So if there is more traffic of anybody here, come over. I can get a 100 gig port, would be nice. Last, so this is one of the lot of the dashboards that I'm using. Libre is monitoring all the ports. You can see NLIX and M6 as well. Thanks NLIX, got a cross connect from you as well. Really, really helpful for the group here. Traffic. So I'm doing a little bit more traffic. So it's about 1 petabyte per month in volume, like with an average of 3 to 4 gigabits. Continuously, and it spikes sometimes. It depends a little bit on, I think, whose mirror. It's like your mirror, huh? It spikes to 10 gig, depending on time of day. Some last points. War stories. RP filter is a batch. So we spent, I think, a lot of hours in the beginning of the network to finding out that you need to do specific settings, at least on Linux, on doing the RP filter settings. Otherwise, you never get any visibility in the DF set. So it was really, really difficult, of course. Typos. We made a lot of mistakes in the YAML files of Bird and making mistakes in case and rechecking the code. So that was really sometimes hard to find out. Linux routing can be done, of course, specifically with VPP. And I mentioned VPP, or effective packet processing, for those of you who know it, specifically because there was somebody in my group, I will not mention him, who was doing a lot of packets per second. And if you do the classical routing on Linux, then let's say soft IRQs are killing you on the network side. So the whole reason that I moved to VPP is because of Nick, because he had certain traffic patterns which require that. So. But then the challenge came, of course. So for Red Hat, there are no VPP packages. So Pim does a great job in building that for Debian and Ubuntu, that kind of stuff. But for RHEL, there's none. So I spent almost 3 months getting those packages to work on a RHEL-based or CentOS-based system. But the result is rewarding because in the end, when I had built it, the router stayed almost up for 1 year. So the VPP daemon, including Bird, stayed up for 1 year. I think that's really awesome. And it's really stable now also to provide some services. So it's a rabbit hole. And it is, so we talked with that about Niels. It's a really, I think the networking art is really a craft which you need to master, which takes a lot of time. So that's not time that I always have with my current work, but it's a cool area to work with. And I see a lot of similarities between the open source communities that I work with and like this community, because similar goals, sharing stuff, cool things, project, etc. So I would say keep up the good work. And last, for those of you who know it, we love oranges. My mantra, I had to remind, okay, how can I do BGP traffic shaping? Of course, we love oranges as refreshment. So to conclude, some plans. I want to use Acforado for S-Flow, VPP to 25. I'm still running 24, but I need 25 for Acforado for S-Flow. PM Transit Portal, perhaps I will fork it from Jelle. Some DDoS or upstream, so NAWAS or NBIP would be nice, because we have a lot of folks now behind me. Rancid Oxidize for the monitors, for all the switches and all the routers that we manage would be good. And more locations where people need me. So I recently opened with a DWDM wave in Cupra, but if there are other folks like, oh, I want to have something there, And perhaps one of the sponsors, which I mentioned on my last slide, has an on-net location there. I'm happy to put some stuff there over there as well. I'm not charging Mbit traffic or something. You can just plug and use whatever that you want. I do ask always, and that's also with the group, to contribute to the community. So some people contribute some money, some people contribute some code, or some other time, and to help each other. And then last but not least, I think that we're on time. One more thing, always, that's really cool. So I have a hobby as well, another hobby as well. I've got a lot of hobbies. It's a little bit of a smart home, 300 devices, 3,500 data points. So I figured it would be cool if I can also be lazy, because IT guys are lazy by inherently. So I figured, why not connect my whole network, AS200.133, to Home Assistant, because I want to ask, let's say, the status on some stuff of my network. So giving you a little bit of a sneak preview, and let's hope it's going to work. With audio as well. I think I need to press space again, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm asking now to Alexa, what's the latest status of my network? It's a video that I recorded, so not live, sorry guys. But let's see if this is going to work as a final closure.
Transit status. The NIC-F1 router has currently 3 established transit connections active.
So, okay. So it was the last gimmicky. So what happened in the background, there's a whole node red flow, which then directly connects via SSH towards my routers, which are via an out-of-band network. And it really pulls live data. So this is not a, let's say, pre-recorded voice. And it really extracts all the data. It does some grabbing with like, okay, how many transit connections? Niels is one of them. And then it counts it and then puts it in a payload. And then I can ask Alexa, okay, how many transit connections are active? But I built equally stuff for like, okay, how many DFZ routes or how many members are online or anybody else. So. Last but not least, with a little help from our fans. So guys, so Arend from 36, thank you very much. I got 2 ports from you, really cool. Asimo, so as well, got 40G, but I want to expand. So Teun, thanks a bit for the connections as well. And of course, the other people, I think I already mentioned Physics, IPNG, Pim, support a little bit in coaching on vector packet processing. And of course, M6, thanks Lionel for the 10G connection. And of course, NLNOG, which is really helpful. So that was it, and I think we can now open for some questions.
Yeah. But we have also a shout out to Coloclue. If you want to play with this, well, you can request resources if you want, if at Coloclue, for example.
There are questions, I see. Will.
Yeah, hi. I'm Will from AS2613. I was wondering why you went all for Bird and not FRR or like hardware router. I suspect the price, but you could recover some old device that were laying around. Mine is running on Cisco 7206 VXR still. Sorry about that.
Okay, I will answer this one. I chose to go with Bird because I am also a volunteer at Coloclue, and they use Bird already, so it was an easy one to go with that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I can also add to that I tried different routing engines. One of them was the Windows RAS. It doesn't like full tables very much, I can tell you that. It's, I would not recommend, but feel free to experiment.
Hi, I'm Marlies. I have AS214723. If you want the sticker, you know where to find me. I was wondering if you were all so smart in 2006, or did you find another way to connect to some of the exchanges I saw listed that currently, as far as I know, require a certain amount of IPv4 space advertised? And if you're one of those exchanges and you're here, maybe drop that old-fashioned requirement?
Yes, I can answer the question. Probably 2006. So for me, it was like it was you cannot. It was too expensive at the time. So what I did in the meanwhile is, let's say, I lended my space to Sebastian, and he used it for some stuff. So he announced it. It was not completely out of the deep set. So he lended me for almost 10 to 15 years. And we did have some vague top tunnels from my home towards a vague router somewhere to get it at my home. So now I got partially of the 24, I got it at home, but it's now much more easy to build those connections, of course. So at the time, it was much too expensive. And now you got free ports with a lot of the internet exchanges, a lot of the initiatives which really helped in building such stuff, which of course helps also the community, because for people who are, let's say, still students, you cannot expect them to pay 500 euros a month for like such a hobby. That's, I think, not doable. Yeah.
No, but how do you get around requirements like that for your colleagues, so to say, who don't have the foresight in 2006?
Yeah? No.
For me personally, it was asking around in my network or in communities, and through there I found someone who was willing to sell me or lease to me IPv4 space. That is one of the biggest expenses currently for my network, leasing IPv4A/24 IPv4 space. But yeah, I agree. If your IXP requires IPv4 space, then you're old-fashioned and you should change your policies. But yeah, nowadays, if you want to get started, the quickest way is to, unfortunately, lease IPv4 space and spend a little bit of money on that. Hobbies cost money, and it's unfortunate that we have to spend money on legacy resources.
Thank you.
Robin.
Also, in my case, I became a couple of years ago RAI player, which, by the way, is a very expensive hobby. Don't do it. I sold that space and I switched to PI.
Now Robin then.
Yeah, Robin Gliamse, related question. I don't have an ASN. Where do I get one and what does it cost?
You can get an ASN sponsored and also an IPv6 prefix sponsored with a layer. And well, Coloclu is one of those. And in case of Coloclu, we just charge what Ripe charges us.
Which is?
For IP prefix, it's 75x VAT, and for an ASN, it's 50x VAT a year. And you also need your yearly contribution.
You need to think
to
as
be a
an
member.
entrepreneur, Jelle. You need to make a margin.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sure you two will connect later on. Yeah.
Okay, Arend gaat vragen stellen.
There's a question from Arend.
Oh.
Now we get it.
Oh, now it goes.
I am sorry. I first need to come clean because I'm a legacy guy. I like IPv4 more. I'm getting old, so I can't remember all those letters and numbers.
I think you also have a personal ASN, right?
I do, yes. It's also a 16-bit one because I'm really old. But what I wanted to say, I heard the question about the people needing IPv4 to announce on IXPs. We at FreeCX do things a little bit different maybe because since the beginning everybody is welcome, and if you don't have IPv4, you are also welcome. And if you buy some later, then we can just add the IPv4 to our route servers, no problem. So if you want to connect with us and you are in one of our data centers where we are available, very welcome if you only have IPv6.
Teun.
He actually likes IPv6. I don't know.
Of course he does.
Okay.
You
Actually, I'm curious. What did you break running your routers? Because you had the slide on why you shouldn't be running private routers on the internet. So, did you guys break anything?
Did we? So I made sometimes with the case configuration, for example, so that removed all the filters. So all my peers, so all the members were down, like 15 people at once. But luckily, the way that case updates itself, that really helps. That was one of my biggest ups. I didn't have any route leaks, so that was really cool. Also not, let's say, IPv6 router advertisements on an IXP. And one thing that I did is made the mistake on my VMs to do also an MTR with DNS lookup. And then I got a netlink buffer overflow of the Linux kernel. And then it was like, the router was like, then the router crashed. So that was not really handy to do. So I learned from that as well, but I never make that mistake again.
Thanks. To be clear, I think experimenting on the public internet should be done. Because if we don't do our job very well, it shouldn't be your fault that our networks break. We are responsible for our own networks.
Yes.
Final question from Arjen.
Well, it's not really a question. I want to correct something. An IXP as M6 never ever demanded that you announce IPv4 space. The only requirement is that you have an AS number. And if you don't announce anything, and there are, I know, members of the M6, at least in the past, that didn't announce anything, that's fine with the internet exchange. It's different if you want to peer with somebody else, that somebody else can have requirements, another AS, like I want you to announce, I want you to exchange a certain traffic, but that's not a requirement of the IXP. It's a requirement of your peers. So I wanted to correct that.
Thank you for that correction, Arjen. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for your presentation. It was a big one.